forward to it. Good night. Well, I'm in New York. That's the Lake Champlain Bridge, and on the other side is Vermont. It was a great night last night. I got in about 8:30 and set up everything. Got a good night's sleep. Yeah, I ended up, what a difference from Allegheny National Park, where I was just miserable in the morning. I picked up a Thermarest mattress to use. I had read that it was one of the most comfortable, and it definitely was. Actually, it might be more comfortable than my mattress at home, which is good and bad. But it was a lot better than sleeping directly on the ground. And because I'm traveling later in the season, I ended up getting I stopped at the outlet store North Face in Freeport and picked up a Snow Leopard 0-degree sleeping bag. The sleeping bag I was using was, I think, definitely summer, and anything under 70 degrees would start getting cold. So I picked up a new sleeping bag, and it just kept me toasty warm all night. So it was a great night of sleep. Got up early this morning. Beautiful day so far. Had a little bit of fog, might burn off a little bit. So next stop is Lake Placid, New York. So I'm going to pack the tent up, get the bike ready, and then hit the road. So hopefully it's another great day of riding. This is the Champlain Memorial and Lighthouse. You really forget a lot of the history that is taking place in places that you just drive by or ride by. When I stopped here and I read about this, it dates back to the French and Indian War, back in the 1700s, where the French had a fort and a windmill here, and the British were advancing, and the French retreated up to Quebec. Quebec is a fortified city, so they retreated up to Quebec and destroyed the fort and the windmill. And in recognition, back in the early 1900s, 1907, they built this lighthouse to commemorate the French and their support during the French and Indian War. But they also found artifacts in excavation in the area that date back to the 1300s for Native Americans. And you never know all these things by just driving by. And you never know it by looking, because they have a beautiful brand new bridge, very modern bridge. And you really got to stop and look at history that's all around us. This is the breakfast of champions. A moon pie. One of my mother's friends decided to bake some moon pies and brought them over yesterday morning when I left on the trip so I could have a couple moon pies for the ride. I don't think she meant for me to have them as breakfast, but it'll have to do for a little bit. They've been really good though. They're delicious. Across from the Lighthouse Memorial is Crown Point, where the British constructed their largest fort ever in North America. It was reduced to rubble in 1773 by an accidental chimney fire. When I was on the other side of the street and I was talking about history being all around us, on that side there was an old windmill. That was by the memorial, and that original place was an old windmill that used to grind the wheat and grain that they used to grow in the area to create flour and feed the citizens that lived along the lake of Lake Champlain. Across the street where I'm at now, when the British came up and pushed the French back up to Quebec, they built one of their large forts, and I'm standing in one of the officers' quarters. This dates back to mid-1700s, 1750 I think. This would have been 2 stories. Everything was wood back then, so there would have been a floor above us and a second floor above that. But
this is, to stand in something and realize that there were battles that were just outside of this, it's just amazing, you know. And if I wasn't on the bike, it's one of the things I like most about being on a bike and riding, is the fact that you just get to stop, pull over, stop. You see so much more than you do in the car, and it creates that adventure where you want to go and find things. Never would have done any of this in a car. I never would have taken these rides. Even in Maine, I would have never gone on those things with Mom or seen some of the sights up there. But to experience these things and have it date back so long ago really is amazing. It's a beautiful area, Lake Champlain, just gorgeous.
Trying to attack me and make me laugh. Is there in your words, making up yourself a soundtrack to a story that's boring and all wrong? So I watch you fall apart as I sing this song. So look at you now, you don't talk so loud. Your eyelashes have all run out from making them wishes and pulling them out, screaming so loud.
Lake Placid, New York, site of the 1980-1932 Olympic Games. I can still remember Lake Placid Olympic Games. Does that make me old? The 1981, not 32. Anyways, what a beautiful place. Beautiful place. Nice stop.
And I'll be waiting in line. You see, all that I've gotta be, well, it's all that you want from me. So tonight, I'm sorry.
So we're at the Lake Placid ski jump. Can't tell by the camera, but this is massive. The angle on this thing is just amazing. When they jump on the chairlift, take the elevator to the top, and get a view from the top to really get a good perspective just how high that is, how absolutely crazy these Olympic jumpers are to do this stuff. Just crazy. Anyways, let's take a ride up to the top. We're gonna go jump together. Well, on our way to the top of the Olympic Center jump, we are in the Lake Placid Olympics Park. Behind me, you can see some of the other mountains. So we're going to take a look to see what these guys actually do when they start jumping, how high it is, and the angle. It's going to be hard with the camera to see the angle of everything. Hell, steep that is. I did that in school in math, so I'm not sure what degree that is, but it's a pretty steep degree. So, anyways, we're going to take the elevator to the top of this thing where they start that jump. See what it looks like at their perspective when they start going down that jumping ramp.
This song, so look at you now, you don't talk so loud, your eyelashes have.
Well, right now we're at the top of the Olympic ski jump, and it is just spectacular. As a matter of fact, you can't even see the landing spot where they jump and then they sail down and land. You can't even see it. That's how much of an angle it is. It's just amazing. Just amazing. Beautiful day. Colors, scene, spectacular.
Well, after viewing the ski jump, I decided to take the center's lessons on freestyle jumping. Not bad for my first time. Actually, it was the Olympic freestyle jumping team from Kazakhstan. Now, I look just like that when I crash on my skis. So, I thought I deserved a medal.
You see all my competitors first out of one.
My next stop was Thousand Islands, New York, which is right on the border of Canada. I was stopping in to visit the Bolt Castle, which is a private home built on an island by a very wealthy man back in the early 1900s. We started off with a private tour of his boat house, which housed some of his actual boats that he had at the time. The unfortunate thing is that the memory chip in my camera became full, and everything after this was not recorded. Damn.
This morning wake-up call is brought to you by the people at Finger Lakes New York Coffee. Finger Lakes, New York. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful area.
Well, the Finger Lakes might not be known for their coffee, but they are known for their wine. There were actually vineyards that lined the lakes. I put this on my bucket list to visit again and try some of their wineries. The views in the area, once again, were just amazing.
This makes for a good start to the morning. Beautiful scenery along the Finger Lakes right now. Had to stop and get a shot of this.
While I was riding, I came across this hayfield, which just seems to stretch forever. And my first thought was, it reminded me so much of the movie Gladiator, when Russell Crowe walked through the field. So this is my impression of Russell Crowe in Gladiator walking through the hayfield. When I got into Pennsylvania, I decided to take a special trip. I went over to the Flight 93 National Memorial. I had been there a few years before when they had the temporary memorial, but I wanted to see the new one. Unfortunately, when I got to the front gate, it was locked. Come to find out, it was locked because of the government shutdown. And as you can see, people thought it was bullshit. So I decided to do a little different type of sightseeing.
Alright, you're not going to be able to get the scale on the video if you've never been by a windmill before. They are enormous. I think this is one of the large models. They come in all kinds of sizes, but I definitely think that this is one of the larger ones. It is immense. You can actually hear the blades going by. Probably can't hear it on the video, but you can hear them when they're spinning going by. There's a wind farm, I guess is what they call it. There's a few over on that side of the hill. They come across and they go along on this side. I'm going to go follow the road a little bit more, see if I can get a little bit closer to a couple of them.
So after taking a couple back roads, guess what I found? Now it's hard to get a really good perspective from the video of just the sheer size of these windmills. But at the very bottom down there, there's my motorcycle. It was actually scary to stand underneath those blades. It's quite a sight to be up close to one of these windmills. Well, my trip was coming to an end. I was about ready to cross from West Virginia over the bridge to Ohio. And I've got to admit, I had mixed feelings about it. Leaving all my family behind on the East Coast always seems kind of hard. here it is. Here comes Ohio, welcoming me back. And speaking of welcoming back, friends were waiting for me.
Party just for me! Woohoo!
Party that everybody had for me getting here. This is awesome. You guys are great.
Welcome home, kids!
Everybody came out for me! These wonderful friends! I love them!
Well, you could probably tell this wasn't a homecoming party for me. It was actually Quaker Steak and Lube's final bike giveaway of the season, but it made for a great end to an amazing trip.
Well, I'm home safe. The 2013 Maniac, Maine road trip is done. Spent about a month visiting family, and total trip miles was 3,039. These trips are great adventures. You get a feeling of accomplishment once you're done, but for me, they're a bit more because it's the only chance that I have, being that all my family is in the East Coast. I only get to see them once a year. And when I do the trip, I try to see my father and my sister and my nephews and my mother and try to combine that all together because they're spread out from New York to Rhode Island to Maine. So these trips are important for me in that sense. And when I get back, it's bittersweet to get back. I sit back and I think about all the scenes and the travel and some of the places I stopped and stayed and saw, and they're just they're great memories. And but the most important part of those memories are visiting family, and especially when I only get to do it so few, once a year. So back home, thinking about my next trip already. Not sure where we're going to go, but we'll figure something out. So until the next one, hope everybody's enjoyed the video. I've had such a great time making them. It's a fun experience to be able to go back through and see everything. So we'll hopefully the next trip is just as exciting, and everybody will come along again. So thanks for riding along.